All right, it's two past the hour. We're going to get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Green Energy Series webinar. Today, we're going to deep dive into combo washer heat pump dryers. If you don't know what these are, don't worry, we'll get into it. So before we dive into the topic, a little bit about Solar Oregon. Solar Oregon is a nonprofit that was founded in 1979. That makes us 47 years old. It grew from grassroots efforts to support clean and renewable energy. And as you know, solar is still a up and coming resource. While it's made lots of progress, we still have uh, much more roofs to install solar onto, and many other locations to that could be solarized that have not yet been. So we continue that mission today by continuing to be a bold voice and trusted educational resource to empower all individuals and communities statewide to adopt solar. We offer many webinars and events throughout the year, including many offerings of the Solar Plus Storage presentation, which is our introduction presentation to people on how to navigate getting solar. We do this presentation in two formats, both virtual webinars and in person at many different locations throughout the state of Oregon. And we deep dive into specific topics through the Green Energy Series. And these Green Energy Series topics could be directly related to solar, or it could be tangentially related to solar, such as like this combo washer heat pump dryer topic, which is you're going to see is a pretty significant energy savings. And so reducing loads allows your solar system to go further. So, instead of using up your energy credits in the summer, you have plenty of energy credits to get you for the winter, so that even by the end of the net metering year, you are still close to net zero as possible. So that's the connection to solar, and that's why we do these webinars. And we also organize home tours, and the Go Zero tour that's typically later in the year is something we're in the planning phases for right now. If you have a home that is in the greater Portland, Oregon area, and you think that, it'll be great to showcase your home on this Go Zero tour, we are accepting home applications right now, and we'd be interested to hear about your home and your journey to install solar and to get your home to as close to net zero as possible. Um, or if you're already there, great. We'd love to hear your story too and have your home on the tour. We just got done with a solar winery tour. One thing that's really interesting in Oregon is that our climate, you think that we don't have enough sun. We definitely do have enough sun. In fact, many farmers th have discovered that their crops actually get too much sun in the summer. So having bifacial solar panels installed on their farm allows the partial shade to reduce the water usage of their plants by a very large amount. And then additionally, their plants still grow plenty good enough in partial shade. And so the additional revenue from the solar really helps keep the farm profitable. And then also many farms have seasonal periods of very high energy usage, such as during the harvest season. And so by installing solar, then they can collect net metering credits and then use those net metering credits during the harvest season, saving them significant amounts of money on electricity. And again, that helps keep small farms profitable. So really interesting to every year we tour new farms that have done this and hear their story. And um, it's wonderful to see this combination of solar and farming practices continue to grow in Oregon. Also, we organize solarized campaigns, and solarized campaigns are where we help canvass neighborhoods and get whole neighborhoods to get solar quotes together, and then and obviously not everybody goes solar at the same time, but if we can get three or five or the number of homes together, then that helps the solar contractor be able to give a volume discount price for, those 3 or 5 homes that are going solar altogether. So that's very good. We plan on continuing to do solarized campaigns throughout neighborhoods in the greater Portland area. And if possible, we could organize some solarized campaigns in other major cities in the Oregon state also. So, anyways, if you like to support our work, feel free to visit this short link to give us a bit of a small donation. Feel free to use the question and answer. And here, before do that, I want to pause and make sure that I've enabled things like chat and whatnot. Let's see, chat. Uh, Go over here, everyone, and everyone. Okay, great. All right, that should be good. Now everybody can see the chat. Okay. All right. A little bit about me. During my 9 to 5 day job, I work at Pacific Northwest National Laboratory as a building energy efficiency research engineer. Um, I also post frequently on LinkedIn. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, you get to see what's on my mind. And I am finishing off a off-grid uh, zero energy tiny home. And this home has lots of energy efficiency features. If you want to see some of those energy efficiency features, it was on the Go Zero tour a few years ago in its rough stage. And so you can find that video on YouTube. A little disclaimer is that the views in this presentation don't necessarily represent the position of Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, U.S. Department of Energy, or Solar Oregon, and best efforts have been made to convey facts and information accurately. However, you're encouraged to do your own research and calculations before making purchases and investments. So an overview of this presentation is we're going to talk about what is a combo washer, heat pump dryer. We're going to talk about the models available in the U.S. market currently, and then dive into the pros and cons of combo washer heat pump dryers. We're going to get into maintenance tips and end with some concluding thoughts. So what is a combo washer heat pump dryer? It is a front load washer with heat pump components to do the drying function all in one box. And this heat pump component is really just a dehumidifier. So a dehumidifier has a hot side and a cold side. So the um, cold side of the dehumidifier helps cool down the air below dew point to wring out the moisture in the air. And then afterwards, in order to keep that space that you put the dehumidifier into from getting super cold, it uses the other side of the vapor compression cycle, the warm side, to reheat the air. And that's how vapor compression dehumidifiers work. And if you stick one of these vapor compression dehumidifiers into a spinning drum, then you magically have a ventless heat pump dryer. So that's what people have, these manufacturers have done. And so again, so the hot side generates warm air, and that warm air goes into the drum and it picks up moisture from the spinning clothes. And then that warm, moist air then it circulates onto the cold side of the vapor compression cycle. And then that cold side drops out all the moisture. And so then as you lose moisture, your clothes magically gets drier. And so then the cold air then goes again back to the warm side of the vapor compression cycle to reheat. And then again, the warm cycle continues and on until your clothes is dry. So the models available in the US, currently there are 3 manufacturers that make a combination washer heat pump dryers. They're GE, LG, and Samsung. Globally, there's about 8 or 10 companies, but those other companies have not brought their products to the US. These are the big 3 we have access to right now. The other products that are available in the global market are typically not as big. They're in these 4 cubic feet or smaller, compact size. But here in the US, we like to do king size comforters and sheets for king size beds. So the models available in US fit the typical laundry habits of US households, and so they are larger in size. The US also tends to have larger homes that can fit larger washer dryer units, and so well, this is what we get. We get the bigger ones. The nice thing about the bigger ones is that notice that 4.8 to 5.3 cubic foot, these are fairly large cubic foot volumes for a washer, but for a full-size dryer, they're actually not that big. They're kind of small. I mean, a lot of dedicated full-size dryers have drums that are in the 7 point something cubic foot. So these are, about 2 cubic foot smaller. But what the solution is that these GE, LG, and Samsung models do is that they use a really powerful fan to blow air through the fibers of the clothing so that even though the heat pump dryer takes a little bit more time to dry the clothes, it's really not a significantly more that much longer of a time compared to previous generations of either just dedicated heat pump dryers or condenser dryers, or previous generations of combo washer units that all had kind of wimpy fans to that weren't able to force the air into the fibers of the clothes to get them dry. These modern latest current batch are really quite good, and I've tested multiple models for hundreds of cycles each. So one of the main pros of the combo washer dryers is that they use a heat pump, and so instead of using electric resistance, they also don't vent the air that the warm, moist air outside. So the two together results in pretty significant energy savings. We're talking about using half or a third of the energy compared to if you were to use a front load washer and then dry the clothes in a vented electric dryer. And then another benefit is that it's ventless, and so there's no need to clean a vent. Um, it is not that easy to clean some vents in homes. Many homes have vents that are not just straight out. They snake through the walls, or even snake through the crawl space, or snake through the attic. So if you have a home that has a vent that goes straight out, good for you. But many homes don't have that luxury. Um, and then also, if you've ever used a uh, front load washer, you will find that they you need to manually dry the door gasket or keep the door ajar in order to let the residual moisture in the door gasket dry. Ventless combo washer dryer units, the dry cycle automatically dries the door gasket, keeping the gasket free of moisture and therefore free of mold. That's a very good thing. And then, so the energy savings of half to one third doesn't even account for the additional energy that your HVAC system would use in order to uh, cool the makeup air or heat the makeup air that the traditional vented electric dryer would use, because the traditional vented dryers will, if you have your drying unit in the conditioned envelope of your home, you'll depressurize the conditioned envelope because, well, for every cubic foot of air that is being um, blown out through the dryer duct, that cubic foot needs to be made up somehow. And the easiest way that the makeup air comes in is through all the cracks and gaps inside your throughout distributed throughout the building envelope. And so then the HVAC system has to make up that unconditioned air coming through those gaps and cracks. Your true energy savings by using a combo washer ventless heat pump dryer is at minimum, like the energy savings of half to one third is a minimum. Like you should get even higher than that if you count the um, energy savings from the HVAC also. Now, of course, some people have their laundry units in a unconditioned garage. Well, then you don't really get the savings of the HVAC savings. So another thing that's really good about combo washer heat pump drying units is that they wash and dry your clothes all in one drum. So you can go to sleep and run the cycle, and before you go to sleep and wake up, and it's washed and dried, or you can go to work and start a cycle and then come back from work and it's already washed and dried. So quite nice. As far as cost, they did start out to be more expensive than a separate washer and dryer. Prices have come down, and they keep trying to compete with each other's price. So these brands, if one is more expensive than another, then they have like a sale, discount sale that's constantly on the run, so that the units are competitive to each other on price. And you get some space savings by being able to combine the washer and dryer into one unit. All right. Here's a picture of kind of all the gaps and cracks that are in a typical home. And you can see that when you depressurize a conditioned envelope, um, all the places where air can come in, and this could cause also mold issues inside your wall, certainly comfort issues and dust and indoor air quality. So we try to avoid depressurizing conditioned envelopes in buildings if at all possible. So by being able to get rid of a major source of this depressurization, which is a vented dryer. It's a very good thing. The latest residential building codes actually give builders a energy credits or points that they can use to meet their energy requirements. And one of the ways to get points is to install a ventless a dryer. So, and the way to easily do ventless dryers is to go with a heat pump dryer or a combo washer heat pump dryer. And so here's some empirical data that I collected on the combo washer heat pump dryers that I have access to. They typically use about 1.1 to 1.7 kilowatt hours to wash and dry a load. Um, and the major savings is not in the washing portion. The washing portion of the cycle is really about the same as a high efficiency standalone front load washer. The major energy savings is in the drying portion. A standard vented electric dryer uses about 3 kilowatt hours per load. And if we're able to do all that work with just 1.1 or 1.7 for wash and dry, and given that the wash cycle uses about zero point 0.2 or zero point 0.3 kilowatt hours, then we're talking about the drying portion using about a half to a third of the energy as a vented dryer. Another thing that's interesting to note on these graphs is the peaks. So these peaks are really quite low. A typical electric dryer has a peak of about 3 kilowatts. These are just above 1 kilowatt, and the reason they need to manage that peak is because these are on 120 volt circuits, and so on a 120 volt circuit, you can only draw so many amps, and you have half the voltage. And the nice thing is that even with half the voltage and not as many amps, it's okay because heat pump vapor compression cycle systems are very efficient, and so they don't need that much electricity in order to produce the heat necessary to dry the clothes. And so that's how much kilowatt hours per load in relative to how much electricity that is for a energy efficient home that's all electric. It is very small amount. So this is a pie chart from last 60 days worth of electric usage in an all electric home that has a heat pump, central ducted heat pump, a heat pump water heater, a level 2 electric vehicle charger, that combo washer heat pump dryer, induction cooktop, And with all that usage, the combo washer represents 4% of the overall home's energy usage. Your pie chart will be different depending on your usage. If you don't have an EV charger or have an electric vehicle, then obviously that puts a major impact on the redistribution of the slices of the pie. Um, Probably if you have a heat pump, you're going to find that your heat pump uses about a third of the energy of your all electric home. That I've seen it is very common. So the other thing, so again, I mentioned peaks. So in this table, we've compiled not only average kilowatt hours per day, but also the 15-minute peak kilowatts. Uh, you might not be that concerned about energy peaks, but the electric company is very concerned about energy peaks because they have to size their transformers and their distribution wires and all their infrastructure around peaks and not necessarily how many kilowatt hours you use. So if you can get that peak down, that's very good. As you see in the combo washer dryer, it peaks at 1.8 kilowatt, uh, which is much lower than the three that you would get in a typical electric dryer. Um, so that's some nice things to have. As the other thing about combo washer dryers is that the drum needs to be made so that it's waterproof for the wash cycle's sake. But that means also that when during the dry cycle, the drum is also waterproof. And so that means it's so well sealed that the lint doesn't escape the drum and the heat pump system. That's very good because in traditional vented dryers, they have seals that are just brush seals. They're not gasket seals. And so if you ever take apart a dryer, you'll find that the inside of the dryer, all the surfaces inside the dryer is coated with a layer of lint. And this is also true not only for traditional vented dryers, it's true for heat pump dryers too, because heat pump dryers, they also don't need to make their drum waterproof because they don't have a wash cycle in them. So after some time, there's just enough lint leakage that the inside of a heat pump dryer also becomes coated with lint. But with combo washer dryers, doesn't happen. I've taken apart combo washer dryers and the inside of them look absolutely pristine, like the day that they left the factory. No lint anywhere. So that's a very good thing. Um, and duct cleaning, as I said, duct cleaning is dryer duct cleaning is not a maintenance that people typically do. They should do it, but it often gets forgotten, and the lint builds up and builds up. And turns out dryer fires is actually one of the leading causes of home fires. Every year that there's about 13,800 home fires, and the clogged vent of a dryer is one of the leading causes of that. Um, this is something that is very avoidable with today's technology. Compo washer heat pump dryer units are not that new of a technology. They've been around on the market now for about 3 solid years. And the heat pump dryer technology before that is been around probably for 15 plus years. Obviously, they weren't that good 15 years ago, but the new current crop is very good. So, we can avoid the dryer fire risk, and that would be a very good thing. I mentioned again the drying cycle of a combination unit dries the door gasket. That's a very good thing. I can't tell you how many front load washers I've been in, both rental units, Airbnbs, etc., that have moldy door gaskets. And cleaning and maintaining the gasket to remove the mold is quite a pain. You can do it. One of the best ways to actually remove mold from a front load washer door gasket is to go buy a bag of pool shock chlorine. You definitely want to wear long, thick gloves when you use concentrated pool shock chlorine for this purpose. But essentially, what you do is you mix just enough water to make it into a paste and soak rags in this paste and shove it in the door gasket and wait about 20 minutes. And this highly concentrated chlorine will kill all the mold in the door gasket. And then you remove the rags and just clean up the remaining paste. But you don't have to do any of this if you have a combination front load washer heat pump dryer units because it dries the door gasket in the dry cycle. And of course, when you combine the two drums together, you save space. Um, you can imagine that I don't need to tell you how to use that additional space in your home. I'm sure your imagination can always fill that empty space with some use for storage, towels, whatever you want. So some of the cons of combination washer front load heat pump dryers is that they do have slightly longer drying times. Um, by slightly, it could be twice as long, but the thing I want to keep mentioning is that like unless you have a laundry habit where you stand around waiting for your clothes to dry, that double the time is really not that big of a deal. And they also, you need to be very diligent at lint removal and managing and cleaning that lint filter because that lint has nowhere to go. It does not disappear into the sheet metal components of the units because the drum is perfectly sealed for water tightness. It does not escape through a vent. So it all stays within the drum and the heat pump lint filter and the heat pump system. So the lint filter catches it all, um, and the lint filters of the modern crop of combo washer front load heat pump dryers is they're very good, but that means that you get a lot of lint on these filters, and you're encouraged to there's the display on these systems will tell you to remove the lint filter and clean it. Like, they have sensors where if you try to start your next cycle without cleaning the lint filter, it'll basically tell you you can't start the next cycle until you've actually removed the lint filter out of the slots for cleaning. Um, and then the size and weight. So these units are typically a little bit taller, or maybe just a little bit wider, or just a little bit deeper than a typical single unit front load washer unit. And so this is something you do need to think about. And the weight is significantly more. So if you have to get this thing up a staircase or around a landing, you really do have to plan the route and measure twice to make sure it fits through your door openings, etc. Um, Now, there's another thing is that there's frequently a question about if these units are combining the wash and dry into one unit. Can you use it in just the wash mode and then be able to take out delicates and then start the dry cycle? The answer is yes. All three brands let you set the unit to just wash, and then afterwards you can open the door and take out some delicates and then start the dry cycle. Or you can just run the dry cycle if like you have something you just want to dry. So another thing to cover is that these I frequently show a vacuum cleaner right next to or on top of these units. It's highly encouraged to keep a vacuum cleaner right next to these units because you will use it frequently to clean out the lint in these units. And speaking of cleaning, so most of the maintenance tips that I'll cover has to do with cleaning and managing the lint. So one thing is if you in the past you may not have ever had run into the habit of washing your lint filter. Um, these units do keep track of how many uh, cycles you've used, and after an X number of cycles built into their program logic, they'll tell you to wash the lint filter. Another way you can tell whether your lint filter needs to be washed is you hold it up to the light, like in this middle photo. If you can't see clearly through that fine mesh filter, and it's just an uh, a blurry, then you kind of want to start to wash that lint filter. You wash it in warm water, maybe add a little bit of soap and use a brush to lightly scrub the filter to get any residual soap scum and ultrafine particles out of the ultrafine filter, and that then restores the airflow through this ultrafine mesh filter that is the filter. Um, you can go online and buy flexible, bendable vacuum attachments. These are really useful for getting into the filter slot to clean any lint that didn't make it into the lint filter, as well as flexible, bendable lint brushes, as shown in the middle photo. These things are not very expensive. They're 10, 15, $20. You can get them various places online. And then another good tip is to keep the lint filter out of the machine when not in use to allow the heat pump system to air out. When it's done drying, the unit is quite warm, and quite warm means that any residual moisture that's in the system stays in vapor form. But then as this unit cools back down, then that warm, moist air will cool down and then go through the dew point cycle and then fall below dew point and condense into liquid water. And that liquid water, if you don't let it air out, could, I'm not saying it will, but I'm just saying it could lead to some smell problems inside the system. And additionally, I think that liquid water, if you keep it in there, then the next time you start the next wash cycle, potentially you can have some lint then like stick to the wet surfaces inside the heat pump system. So to avoid all that, just leave the lint filter out of the machine when not in use, and then when before use, stick the filter back into the slot. Has proven to be a useful tip that has worked well for me. So another thing to do is to check the drain pump filter. So in the past, before getting the combo washer heat pump dryer all-in-one units, the front load washers I've had in the past take multiple years to actually build enough stuff to on the drain pump filter to need cleaning. I've checked them still every year and found like minimal amounts of stuff inside the drain pump filter. That is not true with combo washer heat pump units. So most of the lint gets onto that lint filter for that's in the heat pumps portion. But there's a non-trivial amount of lint that will actually then in the next wash cycle wash into the drain pump filter. So instead of checking this drain pump filter like once a year or maybe even more than once a year, it behooves you to check it about every half a year. Um, and you'll likely find more stuff in this drain pump filter than a dedicated front load washer if you have previous experience with a dedicated front load washer. I found a really good way to catch the residual water before unscrewing the drain pump filter is to use a rimmed cookie sheet to catch the water. The rimmed cookie sheet is really flat enough so that, if your front load washer, combo washer unit is close to the ground, you can still get, the water to effectively catch. Another maintenance tip is these all the three brands of combo washer heat pump dryer, they have auto dispense, and auto dispense is a great feature to have. That means that, they dispense just the perfect amount of liquid laundry detergent for each load. And so as a result, you use your liquid laundry detergent goes as far as possible. There's, I think, even some AI or learning um, features that go on with these units, so that, as you use a certain brand of liquid laundry detergent, it starts to figure out, okay, well, last wash, how did I do? Next wash, do I need to add a little bit more soap or subtract a little bit of soap based on the concentration of the detergent? So sometimes the net result is that if you fill the auto dispense drawer full of liquid laundry detergent, it might take so long for the unit to go through the reservoir that some of the liquid laundry detergent will turn into a gel and kind of cake up because it's so efficient at using the liquid laundry detergent. So what I've seen happen, I'm not saying it will happen, but it could happen, is that the siphons that are in this laundry detergent dispense drawer um, builds up, and then eventually it clogs the siphons in the liquid laundry detergent auto dispense drawer, and then it doesn't work anymore. So once in a full moon, check the drawer to see if you have this issue. If you have this issue, then you can actually take out the drawer and carefully pop the top off and then clean the siphons using warm soapy water. Run it under warm soapy water and scrub and clean and put it back together. Um, if you don't want to use the auto dispense because maybe you don't actually do that much laundry and you don't want that laundry detergent soap sitting in that drawer for a long time, you can use like a small like medicine measuring cup to measure about 3 tablespoons or 50 mils of liquid laundry detergent. I don't always love the measuring cup that comes on top of, as the cap for liquid laundry detergents. I think they encourage people to use way too much liquid laundry detergent. Um, so you might discover, as I have, that less is just as good enough. And 3 tablespoons or 50 mils is plenty to get clothes clean. Um, so the GE combo unit, out of the three brands, they were the first to market. So as a result, the other brands managed to, take the GE unit apart and copy it and learn and, improve upon the design compared to the GE combo unit. But the GE combo unit, because they were first to market, they made some design choices that were maybe great at one point in the design decision making process, but then in practice, it could leave something to be desired. One is that they designed the lint filter to have a bypass in the back. The idea for this, 1.5 inch, 2 finger thick bypass in the back of the heat pump housing is that, well, what if the consumers, neglect to clean their lint filter? Is there a last ditch effort to be able to like bypass some air through the back to keep the heat pump system from blowing up and failing, catastrophically? So then to prevent catastrophic failure due to consumers' failure to clean the lint filters, they decided to put this bypass in the back. But this bypass in the back also results in some lint to bypass, and it results in lint getting onto that heat exchanger um, in the far left corner picture. So if you're diligent about cleaning this lint filter, it's much better to actually close up this back bypass using weather stripping foam. And there's two ways to close up this back bypass. You can either, go buy the self-adhesive back weather stripping foam and attach it to the actual lint filter that you stick into the slot, like in the middle photo. Or a better way to do this, in my opinion, is to stick the weather stripping foam into the back of the uh, heat pump housing so that, when you pull out the filter slot, you don't end up having to replace that weather stripping. So, like the middle photo shows that self-adhesive kind of unsticking itself after many uses. And that's because as you pull the slot out and put it back in, pull the slot out, slot filter slot back out. Repeated use of that results in some stress on that self-adhesive. Whereas if it's in the far right photo and it's just in the back, um, it doesn't the self-adhesive on that weather stripping doesn't experience that type of stress. So in the far left photo, I showed the unit taken apart and the self-adhesive weather stripping foam installed while the heat pump portion is taken apart. I've discovered you don't need to do that. Okay, there's a better way to do that, and the tool to use is the barbecue fork for like roasting your marshmallow on a campfire, or hot dogs over a campfire. That fork, that long metal fork, allows you to then you can fork the weather stripping that's cut to the correct length and stick it all the way to the back through the filter slot, and then you can then press it after you get it stuck. Then you can then use another tool like a long stick to then press the weather stripping foam to stick to the back of that filter slot. So you don't need to take it apart. Just use the marshmallow campfire fork to be able to get that weather stripping back there. Another thing that being first is the GE also has heard from consumers that the foam filter. So the filter that the GE unit has is a two-stage filter. They have a fine mesh screen, and then as stage one, and then in stage two they have a foam filter for stage two filtration. That foam filter would disintegrate after, many hand wash cycles and vacuum cycles. And so consumers were not happy with that foam filter as stage two. So they've redesigned the filters for their combo washer heat pump unit. Here's the model number for the new filter design. It's not too expensive, it's about $35, and it is backwards compatible with all the GE combo units. So if you purchased one and it's out of warranty, and you have that foam filter as the stage two on your copy of the GE combo unit, and you want the new filter design, like you can search this model number and get on the GE parts website and order it for about $35. But even with this new design, I find that the pre this weather stripping in the back is still important. And then another kind of weather stripping place that could be useful is to apply a self-adhesive brush weather stripping on the top and bottom edge of the filter. This brush weather stripping you can get, at your local Home Depot, Lowe's type store. They're typically used for replacing the brush weather stripping on windows, but it's the perfect use for adding the additional seals on the filter for the GE combo unit. I do have some experience on the Samsung and the LG units. Those don't have a filter design that really needs any aftermarket improvements. The Samsung and LG units out of the box have a filter design that's quite good, and they have very little bypass. All right, on size and weight, combo washer units are typically a bit larger. Here's the dimensions of the three brands units, and they are quite a bit heavier. The lightest weight unit is the LG at 254 pounds, and they go up from there. The GE unit is 302 pounds, and the Samsung one is 318 pounds. So if you need to get these things up a staircase, if your staircase has a landing that's L-shaped or U-shaped, boy, you got to really plan out how you get this thing up the staircase. Typically, it entails using a motorized dolly, specialized moving equipment to be able to get these things up the staircase. Um, you may not find your free delivery or $29 delivery from your Lowe's, Home Depot, Best Buy. Those people may not be willing to carry this 300-pound, really big combo washer heat pump unit up the staircase for you for free or for that small delivery fee. So it's something you have to think about. Um, Definitely measure that location. Look at the manual for clearance requirements. So like, these are the unit dimensions typically in order to have the drain hose and the hot and cold water hoses be able to fit in the behind the unit. You need to have probably another 2 inches. So this depth of 32 inches, add another 2 inches to that. If the Samsung is like 35 inches already, add another 2 inches to that, and make sure that, if you have a door that needs to close, that it still closes. If you have a door that swings towards the washer, combo washer unit, that, you're not going to hit the door. Like seriously, measure and measure again, and plan out the path of this, uh, that from the front door all the way to where you want it. Make sure that works. Make sure that the turning radiuses on staircases will work. Another thing is, the door on these units are typically not reversible. The door has a special shape so that the um, the unit's drum, what it has a program so that when it spins clockwise a certain amount and anti-clockwise a certain amount, that it's able to tumble your clothes from front to back and left to right and stuff like that. And if you reverse the door, it doesn't work. Or I don't know. I'm just saying that the design, I've never seen one so far that the door is reversible. So you'd have to think about the door swing if that is an issue. So overall, I would think that the pros definitely outweigh the cons. If they didn't, I wouldn't have so many of them and have tested so many of them. Combo washer heat pump dryers, they are a great option especially for homes where speed is not critical, where you have this laundry habit of washing your clothes right before you go to sleep and then waking up and having the convenience of having the clothes washed and dry is nice. Um, the lint containment is very good. So, if you are diligent about cleaning lint filters and that drain pump filter, you should be able to have these units last a very long time, a full, 10, 15 years that these things are sort of designed life for. And over the course of 10, 15 years, especially with today's rising electricity prices, you should be able to get pretty sizable savings spread out over the equipment life. And again, that half to one-third energy savings compared to a front load washer plus vented dryer. That does not even include the energy savings from not depressurizing the conditioner envelope. So, your savings could be even more. And as far as cost goes, they used to be slightly more expensive than a comparable quality front load washer or vented dryer unit, but now they're about the same cost, especially when they're on sale. Before I answer the questions, I want to do a plug on next webinars. We have a webinar coming up May 4th on again, another installment of the solar plus storage kind of 101 webinar. If you have friends that are not that familiar about solar and storage, point them towards one of these offerings of solar plus storage, and they'll learn a lot from this slide deck. Also, the day after that, there's a webinar on comparing solar quotes. So if you have already gotten multiple quotes from solar contractors, that webinar can maybe give you some wonderful insights on how to, properly compare quotes. And then also in the Q&A session of those comparing solar quotes, there's typically an opportunity for you to ask questions specifically to your quote that you've gotten. And then on May 13th, there's a webinar on Dignity Village's solar system. Really great project that has happened at Dignity Village. Um, so if block off your calendar for a chance to hear about that webinar. And with that, I'll check for questions and see if there's questions. Let's see. There are some questions. All right. We have a question about energy savings vary based on climatic regions. There's certainly some energy savings differences based on climatic regions, especially in really hot climates where your makeup air from depressurizing your conditioned envelope is really hot, humid air, and that really adds additional load to your air conditioner. Or if you live in extremely cold climates, then if you're depressurizing your conditioned envelope, um, then your space heating system has to work really hard to reheat that makeup air. Uh, how much of an effect that is, I haven't really studied that carefully. But a typical vented dryer exhausts about 250 cubic feet per minute of air. So you could do some math if you want on, okay, well, 200 cubic feet per minute of air for, they typically run for like 30 to 45 minutes. Then how many cubic feet of air that is, and then figure out, okay, well, what the delta T is between the outdoor temperature and indoor temperature on a design temperature day, and then figure out how much BTUs that translates to. Um, Okay. Are commercial models available? Uh, Not combo washer heat pump dryers, but there are commercial ventless heat pump dryers that are very good. Many uh, energy conscientious commercial laundry operations, especially operations that are, washing tons of laundry for hospitals and hotels on the background. They are using ventless heat pump dryers to reduce the amount of energy they use for drying the linens. Okay. Ticks are killed by high heat and drying. I don't know what temperature. After visiting tick territory, will they be killed by the dry cycle? That is a good question. I don't really know the answer to that. Um, and I don't even know if ticks survived the all the tumbling from the wash cycle. Like if the wash cycle is good enough, will they be sufficiently killed, or do they absolutely need the high heat of the drying cycle? Not sure. I'll do some research and then reach out to you on LinkedIn. Okay. Do these combo units add any humidity to the indoors? An extremely small amount, almost none, because the drum is so well sealed for the wash cycle that almost none of that humid air from the heat pump, the ventless heat pump system, makes it out of the unit to add humidity to the laundry environment. That is not true, I've discovered. Before the combo washer heat pump dryer that I've purchased, I had a just dedicated standalone ventless heat pump dryer. Even though it was ventless and heat pump, because of the brush seals in the drum as opposed to a waterproof seal, the ventless heat pump dryer only unit did experience some humidity increase in the laundry area. So if humidity is a concern, these combo washer heat pump dryer units are better than a dedicated heat pump dryer. Is there a way to sterilize dirty clothes since there's no high heat? Um, the current units don't necessarily have a electric resistance. None of them have an electric resistance element in them to elevate the temperature above that is capable of the heat pump. Now, the heat pump does get the clothes quite hot. I mean, they were talking 150 degrees Fahrenheit. So, is that hot enough to sterilize clothes? I don't know. And then like I said, the drying stage does take longer because it's uses the heat pump system is just not quite as fast as using just a ton of electric resistance or natural gas to heat your clothes. Um, so does that longer cycle at slightly lower temperatures still result in sterilized clothes? I don't know the answer to that question. I'll look into it though. Okay. Chat. Okay. Yes. Oh, speaking of next webinars. So in June, there will be a green energy series webinar on low voltage batteries and their respective hybrid inverters. A lot of new batteries and hybrid inverters have come onto the market, and we'll do a green energy series talking about these new inverters and batteries that are significantly cheaper than previous generations offerings. And so that could be something that's very interesting to your home. I've certainly installed some and have had great success with these new inverters and low voltage 48 volts LFP batteries. They're really quite cost effective. Alrighty. Checking the Q&A once more. Are these combo units quiet compared to traditional units? I think they're really quiet. I mean, I think they're insanely quiet. The heat pump does not make that much noise. I was concerned about the heat pump making quite a bit of noise initially, and then when I got them, then I was pleasantly surprised. Okay, let's see. I think I've hit all the questions. Oh, and Jeff, for the quietness, there is a noticeable difference in noise. The units that have a um, direct drive motor for tumbling the clothes, they are a little bit quieter than the ones with belts. So the LG and Samsung have a direct drive motor for spinning the clothes in the drum. The GE unit does use a belt, so the GE unit is just a titch noisier. Okay, I think I've gone through all the questions and the Q&A and both the chat. All right, with that, look forward to seeing you all on a future webinar. With that, we'll close out this Green Energy series, and you guys have a great rest of your Saturday. Take care, everybody. Okay, bye.